Welcome, paranormal enthusiasts, to this week's episode of We're Creepin' It Reel, here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, where everyone comes for their paranormal fix. Real people, real stories, in real time. So glad you could join us for some ghostly gab. I'm your host, Eleanor Wagner.
Hello. As always, I appreciate you hitting the subscribe tab, follow button, or show app on your podcast of choice. Everybody give a hello shout out to our coast to coast techie, Chris Mabry. He'll be working hard tonight to help us run smoothly. Join me in welcoming the team members of Clifton Paranormal. We have co-founder and lead investigator, Colin Morgan, co-founder and lead investigator Ariel Grada Wagner, and investigator and team historian Kirsten States. Hi guys, thanks for joining us today. So I understand you all own a haunted theater, is that correct?
We all work at a haunted theater, yes.
Well, I got a couple of pictures from online, and we'll give credit to Huntington County Historic Photos for the pictures that they're going to be putting up for us. But the building currently known as the Clifton Theater once housed 4 different theaters, the first being the Huntington Opera House, which opened in 1884 and burned down in 1902. Chris is going to put up a picture, black and white, of the original inside. It was replaced with yet another Huntington Opera House. Does this all sound familiar to you guys? I'm sure it does, right? Formerly a silent film house that came under pressure by the Gamble brothers to release motion pictures and was renamed the Gamble Theater. It remained doing so until it was sold to J. Lynn Blackford, who created the Clifton Theater, who upgraded it to include a pipe organ and a new projector. Once again, the theater would be plagued by fire, destroying it in 1930, leaving the town theaterless. Somewhere along the line, the theater was rejuvenated, but recently, after dealing with not being able to upgrade to modern technology and the pandemic, the owner is forced to sell it. That's not the picture, Chris. Where does this leave Clifton Paranormal now?
It leaves us, gosh, and my words fail me. This is our home. We, Ariel and I started this group out of this location. We knew that it had a history, and prior, I was a patron and I had paranormal experiences. And then Ariel's our general manager and she's had tons of paranormal experiences. So I started working here and we got together and we were like, you know what? COVID happened. And we were in dire situations. So her and I put together our historic tours, our historic paranormal tours. And we put them together and it was literally in the middle of October. I had a friend of mine create the website, which was Clifton 5 Ghost Tours, to sign up. I didn't have the money to pay her right away because she had it done by October 1st.
Yeah.
And I said, no, you get paid, then we make the site live. As soon as it was made live, October 15th, I was doing a tour almost every single night.
Now, where's the location, Colin?
It is in Huntington, Pennsylvania.
Okay. So if anybody wanted to go on this tour, they could come out there. Do you have them a specific night? So do you allow paranormal teams to come in and pay a fee to stay there for like 7 hours or whatever to do an investigation? Do you do that also?
We do. So for anyone who would like to rent the theater space itself, we usually go for 300. We do from 11 p.m. to about 4 or even 5 a.m. just depending on the activity. And then if anyone would like to stay the night, they need to bring their own accommodations because we don't have beds or anything. They can do basically 11 to 9 a.m. for $350. $350. And that's what we do for anyone who would.
So tell those times again because you totally froze up and nobody heard that.
What? They didn't hear you.
Okay, what do you want me to say?
But it's $10 a person.
Oh yeah. So anyone who wants to rent the space, as far as a team is concerned, we rent it out for $300, and that is from 11 p.m. to roughly 4 or even 5 a.m., just depending on activity. And then if anyone would like to stay the night, we just charge an extra $50 on top of that. and you'll have the space from 11 p.m. to 9 a.m. the next morning. And then our tours are only $10 a person. And we do our tours mainly on the weekends. Saturday nights are when we do them. We've kind of started this new thing to where we show a movie, usually a themed movie depending on the month. Like this Saturday in 2 days, we're showing the original Leprechaun with Jennifer Aniston. And then we're doing a tour after. So, and those
That's
are
perfect.
yeah, and we'll work out a price with that because we'll include popcorn and a drink and all that kind of stuff. But if we're just doing a regular tour, it's $10 a person.
Very cool. And they're very popular these days, especially with all the paranormal teams going around the countries. And just people who want to be scared in general. It doesn't have to be part of a paranormal team. But from both sides of the spectrum, it's a really popular thing. You said that you're in your attic space.
Yes.
And that you're trying to, it used to be the space, I guess, for all of the employees, and you're trying to recreate that for you and your people, correct?
Correct. So this area is basically unexplored. We started bringing people up here during our summer tours because this was an area that we've had experiences in, but we never really bothered to investigate it. We do know this space, once the building was rebuilt, this area used to house where the Freemasons met back when it was the Huntington Opera House.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of their space.
And, I know from having investigated Elks clubs in the past, that's like a brotherhood, the Masons.
Yes.
And they make that place their home. And I'm sure, as in the situation with the Elks clubs, they come back. Those deceased members come back to haunt that building. So I'm sure you'll probably have a bunch of Freemasons in there too. Over how many years were they in there for about?
Oh, they were here since from research, roughly ever since the creation of the Huntington Opera House. It was a free space for them. They sold artwork.
Definitely.
They sold artwork and they met in private up here on the third floor of the building. And then we found out when the building burned down in 1901, the Freemasons were said to have run into the burning building up 3 flights of stairs to get their artwork out.
Wow.
Yeah, they risked their lives. And so it made us as investigators think what was so important about that artwork.
Yeah.
Right.
So, because Freemasonry, Ariel's done some research on Freemasonry, back then.
It was very cults and ritualistic, bloodletting.
Yeah. Well, it's still said to be that. I'm sure you would hear it from conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, certain chapters still practice. Yes. Even though they deny it.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
One question that came to mind about when you went to paranormal teams, is there a required number of people or a minimum or a maximum? Is it a large place?
Of 10 just because it is a large space, but we'll do a maximum of 10 for the 300 or the 350 if they're staying the night. Anything above that, we'll normally try to work something out.
Good to know. All right. See, we're getting that word out there for all the paranormal teams that are tuning in. Well, you brought an EVP with you that you caught in the attic.
Yes.
And so, Chris, that's going to be the one that says attic EVP on it. And you want to explain it before he runs it for us and how that came about, how you caught it?
Yeah. So we're in the process of developing a podcast called Voices in the Attic.
Well, that's a good name.
Yeah,
like that.
And that's literally, that's kind of where the idea came from. As we thoroughly enjoy talking about paranormal and anything under the umbrella of paranormal. It's such a wide spectrum. So Errol and I said, you know what, let's talk about it. And so we were up here recording an episode on skinwalkers because she's obsessed with skinwalkers and cryptids. She's completely obsessed. And so we just keep it recording the entire time. And we were talking, Kirsten was talking about how she wanted to go downstairs. And, we're all best friends, so we all poke at each other the entire time. Because then I go in and just edit that stuff out. And while we were poking at each other, someone whispered something, and we know it wasn't us. You know, 'cause I believe I sent you 2 of them, and so I'm not sure which one is going to play.
Yeah, I think you only sent me one.
Oh, okay. Well,
you know what? Well, you say you had 2, and what did they say in both? And whatever comes up, then we'll
Sure.
you tell me.
So the first one, which was it sounded like someone said. So we recorded in the summer, which is why the EVP wasn't us. So Kirsten was talking about going downstairs, and you hear, "I don't have my coat." And that it was the summertime. We didn't have any coats. It was July. This attic space is about 150 degrees. So none of us were asking for a coat. And then probably about 15 minutes later, we were up here. Ariel had said something along the lines of, you know, don't follow her, don't go out with her. And you hear someone, what Ariel hears is rats.
Oh, rats. Like, oh, rats. That's what it sounds like. But it would fit the like genre of when this building was started and the people that we associated with this building, like old mafioso. Oh, rats. That's what I imagine. I don't know why I expect that. But.
All right. So, Chris, do you want to run that one that you have there, and we'll see which one it is?
It's not there. No, 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 it's not there.
Is that it?
No, it's not there. No, it's not there. No, it's not there. No, it's not there.
Yeah, that's what I have.
That's what you got?
So
Do you have
this is the rats one. So right after I say that's not there, there's a rats, and it's so quick. And I
Do you
put
have
it on
it?
loop.
Do you have it with you right now? Because all we got is no, it's not there. We didn't, nothing else coming on. Or you can shut it down, Chris.
That's not there. That's not there.
I didn't even know what that was.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So you hear the rats after you say no, it's not there, but we didn't get it on there. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Because it's on my computer, which
It might not pull up because you don't have a computer.
well, I mean, yeah, the computer's right there.
Oh.
Because you're on it.
I didn't know whose computer that was.
Now you also got a shadow in the theater that you sent the video of
Yes.
to us. How did you guys know that happened, or did you catch it afterwards? Was it like a fluke and you say, "Oh my God, did you see that?" and then play it back to see it? Is that how it happened?
Yes, it was actually our very first tour. This one was out of town, and I was doing a tour with another employee. And it was a lovely mother and her daughter, and we were walking around Theater 4, which is our most active theater. And you know, we don't have lights on; we just had our flashlights. And she is walking around with her iPhone, and she's taking live photos. And for those who don't know what live photos, it takes it's what, 2 seconds, maybe 1 or 2 seconds before it takes the photo and it records that. So she's walking around and doing that, and then she asked me to come over and look at something, and she goes, "What's that?" And I look at it and I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So then she slows it down, and I mean, you see this apparition walk right across the aisle. And I tried to recreate it because, like I said, we have flashlights, but the bottom of the seats are not shiny enough. They're like a cloth, so they're not reflecting that light. Because I thought maybe I tried to debunk it immediately. Couldn't do it.
Sure. That's what you try to do, right? You try and debunk it so that you can see. Well, Chris, why don't you show us? Because I watched that before I sent it to him, and it's pretty cool. So that's the one that's clipped in video. It's listed as. And it looks like a cell phone.
Yeah, I had
a video of the film. Yeah.
She tried to send me that wasn't uploading, so I just said, "Here, just pull out your phone. I'll record it with mine."
Well, that was smart.
Go.
Again, Chris, a couple of times because it happens pretty quickly.
Go.
thing about this video is once you see it, you can't unsee it. Like once you finally find that spot and focus on it, you can't unsee it. I see it every single time now.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I love that when you find something in mirrors and windows too, or if you're trying to point something out to somebody. When I do my presentations and I have something, sometimes people don't catch it right away. And then you got to try and get that way to explain to them the visual and then maybe point it out on your presentation board. And then they're like, oh, I see it now. And then you can't unsee it. You just look at it and it's there.
Yeah.
So you say you've had tons of different hauntings in the theater.
Oh,
tell me about some of them. I want to hear them.
So one of my more terrifying events would take place in Theater 1, which is one of the areas that the Freemasons would have been in the area. That would have been more of their environment. From what we were told, that's where they would have met. And I was in there for a ghost tour, and there was this wonderful team here, Bearded Paranormal. And I'm in there with all of them, and one of
it was one of the investigators.
It was one of the investigators, his kid. She hands me.
All right, guys, hold on a sec. Okay, the last thing I heard was that it was the Theater 1 where the Masons used to be nearby.
Yeah, so we were in Theater 1, and Bearded Paranormal was here, and the lead investigator, his daughter, was with them, and him and somebody else handed me the speaker. They handed it to me, and as soon as they go to hand me the speaker, I felt a hand grab me on my wrist and scream in my ear, "Get!" And I left. And I'm the general manager here, and I didn't go back in there for probably a solid year. I would not like that by myself. Like
no kidding.
Yeah, no, it was terrifying.
You didn't ask. You didn't ask like that's to me. That's somebody trying to get your attention. Somebody trying to get your attention.
Angry. It was so angry, and it was evil. It wasn't something that was nice. It was nothing. I was never. I wander on all our investigations. I don't get scared. I don't care where we are. It doesn't scare me. I very much enjoy it. I've never been so truly scared except for in one. It was the scariest, most evil presence, and when it yelled in my ear, it would just kept playing in my mind for months. It was one of the scariest voices I've ever heard, but yet it sounded like an old coworker here at the same time.
I was standing
next to
like 2 feet away from her, if that, and they just handed her the speaker because they were doing they had a ghost box, so they had a speaker just like this one. They hand it to her, and all of a sudden, within seconds, she goes pale. I mean, just everything dropped. It was like someone just gutted her. And she was, take this, and then runs out.
No,
I didn't hear anything. No one did. She was the only one.
But see, getting back to like the Elks thing before and how I said it was a brotherhood, we did find that the spirits, of course, they don't know where in 2023 or 2022, or whenever it was that we were there. They think they're still back in their time frame, and women were not allowed anywhere near their meetings, especially in their secret room. So they were getting angry because we had our place and it wasn't there. So do you think it could have very well have been maybe a Freemason that was pissed off that you were in their area?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt, it was a very male-dominant man, a very mean presence, and we get them in 1 and in 4, and we catch many EVPs of calling us whores, or I don't know if we're allowed to curse, so calling us bad names.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The word gentleman.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Mm-hmm.
One is very aggressive towards women. I was doing a children's tour where we have the lights on and we investigate some different places, and I physically watched the mom's hair, who was in a ponytail. Her son was in front of her asking me a question about the history, and I was answering. Her head went like that, and she told her son not to pull her hair. And I said, well, no, ma'am, his hands were right in front of him the whole time. And he was like, I didn't pull your hair. And then her daughter got very upset and started crying. And she goes, no, honey, I was kidding. And she looks at me, she goes, I just had my hair pulled. I was like, I saw it. Like, her head jerked back. And then also in one for me.
Kirsten follows me.
Oh, yeah, no. And this one, she's our favorite because she gets scared at absolutely everything.
The best. It's the best.
It is. I was in one, what month? So it was back in October when we were doing our tours, and I was doing a tour. It was just me that night. And I've always been fine in one. There's the heebie-jeebies in one where it feels like you're being watched. Yeah. but I've been okay with it. But I was given a tour, and we were standing by the door, and by the theater screen, there's an emergency exit door that leads to a hallway. Well, as I was talking, such as right now, out of my left ear, from that exit door, I plainly, clear as day, hear someone go, "Hey." And I stopped talking and panned my flashlight, honestly expecting to see someone, maybe wanting to answer or ask me a question, because that's kind of what it felt like. And there was no one there. And I looked at the couple on the tour, and they said, "We didn't hear anything." And after that, it was just me. So we took the tour elsewhere. I probably didn't go back into one for about a month because it
nobody
freaked
goes
me
in
out.
there.
It was
That's so funny.
it didn't sit right with me. It was just something was off about it.
The fact that we're sensitives, I feel that spirit knows that we are and will try to reach out and connect with us because they know that. I mean, when I was a kid, I lived in a home that was haunted, and as a child, I didn't know. My family never really spoke about anything like that, so I was confused and frightened by this spirit that was trying to come into my room. And my mom would just say it was a dream, it was a dream. So I didn't know any better. It wasn't until I was into adulthood when I grew to understand the paranormal world and that I was sensitive to spirit, that this spirit was just trying to get my attention.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell everybody today, I wish I could go back there to that home to say, I'm sorry, because it's trying to get my attention and acknowledgement, you know. And a lot of the times they get frustrated and angry because they're trying to get your attention and they can't. I remember one time actually it taking hold of me, like pulling me back, like almost as if saying, wait, listen. And I was just freaking out, grabbing to get loose.
Yeah.
So that's
and I think sometimes they try different ways to get our attention, especially this one. Because we, for about a month, maybe a couple of months, when we first started doing the tours and giving more notices to the spirits here, we had a round of doppelgangers.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And really?
I saw him, yes. She saw me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tell them, crazy. Hers is more fascinating in my mind. I mean, it was...
From the lobby-way, we have like a hallway that goes back to 4 and 5. It's a different building, so you have to go through this door and then back over. I chased her thinking that she was trying to scare me, and it wasn't her. I mean, I took her up the hallway, then back down through the theater, and by the time I popped out the door, she was gone. It was not her.
And then she went out of the bathroom. Yeah. So but she said she had the physical. She saw the door close.
Yeah,
like she
I chased her.
Yeah.
And she watched me come in from outside and walk right by her.
That reminds me of a horror movie I watched once where these doppelgangers and they chased them down into it was like a submarine or a boat or something, and then they chased the doppelganger, and that was the end of them after they chased that doppelganger.
I tell them all the time.
Don't mean to scare you, but
as long as you don't see your own doppelganger, you're fine. If you see your own doppelganger, that's a forewarning of death. So they always be
really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're safe. My goodness. Oh, well, that theater sounds crazy cool. I love it. Thank you so much.
Come here, young lady.
You're only in
I would love to.
Come on.
I know. Well, you've got me thinking now. I'm going to have to talk to my team and see how far you are. Maybe during the summer we'll make the trip over there and do a nighter with you guys.
Oh, that'd be great.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. We'd love it.
But I know that we talked about sharing other experiences in other places that you've investigated, and the McMurtry House is another one of your investigation spots.
Yes.
The McMurtry House, for the people who are tuning in, is one of the oldest houses in the county, and it was built in 1854 by William McMurtry, and it is now home to the Huntington County Historical Society and serves as a local museum, exhibit gallery, and genealogical research gallery. I'm giving a picture credit to the huntingtonhistory.org and mainlinecanalgreenway.org because Chris is going to put some photos up to show the audience what the building looks like. It was restored to its natural grandeur in 1967 with its rooms completely redecorated to the period of the county centennial in 1887. I wasn't able to find much online about the history of the house or the family. Can anyone shed some light on the subject of that?
Right
So
here.
I know somewhat about the house. Clara was the daughter, and she's the one that left all the property to Huntingdon County. They were quite influential. They were one of the most important families in this town. They were extremely wealthy. They used to have a pet alligator that they had in their basement in their house. They tell you about. They tell you the story of how it died twice. But Clara was the daughter. She was world traveled. She was supposed to be one of the most loveliest people to meet. She left all of it to the Huntingdon County Society. Everything that's in the house is accurate to the period of time, if not Clara's belongings or family's belongings. A lot of the family members just donated all the family's belongings back into the Historical Society.
Oh, that's nice. I like to see the actual furnishings and belongings beautiful. When you're able.
When you walk into this house, you 100%, it looks like you'd be back then. I mean, everything's exactly how it should be. The pictures of the families are everywhere, and it's like they're watching you.
Really?
Yeah, they're quite cool.
So tell me, what happened when you were there investigating?
Well, so we've actually investigated at different times. So I had a completely different experience actually just a couple of weeks ago. I was there and we were using our Phasma box, and I heard something that came across what to me sounded like German. And when I was younger, my father used to speak German, so I was like, maybe it's just me. But I made the comment to the group that I was touring. And one of the girls there spoke German. Now, it wasn't 100% fluent, but she spoke a heck of a lot.
That would have been me. That would have been me. I've been there talking too. When that happens, and I'm like, ooh,
yeah. And I asked her, I was like, could you ask some German questions? And she did, and she got responses back in German over a Phasma box. And
wow.
Yeah, and what we kind of concluded, they said they were a servant. And so around here was Pennsylvania Dutch. Pennsylvania Dutch spoke German back then.
Yeah.
And that was what we thought, because she did ask if they could get her some water. They called her ma'am. And they said they were a worker or a servant. And it was very clear. There was one German saying to where it said, I believe it was "Have a nice day" or something along those lines. And I was just in shock. And I was so in shock that I wasn't even recording it because I couldn't.
Really?
Because using the Phasma box, it is a downloaded source of vocabulary. But German,
yeah.
it blew my mind that we were speaking in German to a German ghost. And I thought that was, like I said, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. And then these guys, because we were there at separate times for certain occasions. We were giving tours.
So me and Kirsten and Dylan were over at the Historical Society, and there's a guy that's friends with us. He's one of our dear friends. His name's Lonnie. We love him. He works at the Historical Society. He's also a friend of ours. And Lonnie was upstairs, and we were in the basement. And we had was Phasma box, right? We were on the Phasma box, and Clara just goes, "Where's Lonnie?" And I was like, "Oh, Lonnie's upstairs." I was like, "Do you like Lonnie?" They go, "Yes, we do." They're very interactive. The spirits, very intelligent. It's quite.
That's great.
Yeah,
because they know their surroundings. I know we did an investigation.
Who knew who Lonnie was? And they said they like Lonnie.
They get to know the people in the surroundings. I know we did an investigation in the Daily Bean, which is a coffee house, and it's one of, if not the oldest buildings in the town. Okay. And it's been so many things over the years, but it's now a little coffee house. And when we did the investigation, the spirit whose name we did realize was saying how he loves the smell of the coffee. And so she leaves him a cup of coffee every morning now, just specifically for him. Which
that's funny. We leave toys for our spirits here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
We leave toys sit out for our spirits here, like different items, and we sit out like a lot of the old projector pieces and stuff. So it's kind of like a remembrance of them.
Yeah, I know that we bring little tricks of the trade too, cigarettes if we're going to a jail, or whiskey if you're going to a mine. When we've gone to hospitals, we bring children's toys for those children. So those are very effective tools, but they appreciate it because they recognize it. If it's something that they don't, we kind of try to explain to them what the equipment is and not to be fearful of it and what it does, because you really don't know who you're connecting to. They could be somebody who's never even seen anything
Yeah.
like it,
Or have
and
any
you want to
idea
be
what's
able
going on.
to and explain it away. So
Yes.
anything else cool happened? Did you get any good evidence while you were there?
Well, yeah, well, with the historical house, a lot of it. Oh, actually, I wish you would have sent me this. So I was investigating there with a good friend of ours, Chris Hammond, Haunted Hammy on Facebook and social media.
Awesome.
He's trying to get his TikTok up there with the rest of us. So he has Haunted Hammy. That's his handle. Well, I'll give him a plug. He's a great guy. And it was New Year's Eve, and I have no life, so he asked me to come out there and investigate it. And I was like, okay, cool, let's go. And he was recording, and I'd asked him for this footage, and he has not sent it to me. So now that I remember, I'm very upset about it. But we were all in essentially, it's like the main parlor room, and there's a small little round table. We were sitting at it. And he's doing the live EVP, and he has the headphones on. And it's getting close to New Year's, and I'm doing a live on TikTok, and we're just kind of talking. And to our right, where Lonnie is sitting off camera, we hear this noise, and I have to recreate it because we laugh about it. It was like, ah. That was the noise. I mean, and I was like, so we thought it was Lonnie, because Lonnie's a practical joker. He'll make noises sometimes, just, trying to be the funny guy in the room. And Chris said, did anyone hear that? And we hear, ha, again. And it came from the right side. And we look at Lonnie. Lonnie's laughing. So we're like, Lonnie, why are you over there making noise? Like, we're trying to record. We're doing this. He was like, that wasn't you? And he was like, no, I'm laughing because the noise, he goes, I thought you guys were doing it. And we're like, no. And so when Chris played it back on his EVP, he had it recorded. It was a live EVP. It was a different noise in my ears when it was recorded, because it clearly sounded like a lady going, hello, hello. And like they were calling from a different room.
Right.
And I was blown away by it, just by the way. And like hearing it on the live EVP, you could clearly hear that it was not Lonnie at all. Lonnie has a deeper voice, and it clearly was not me with my high-pitched voice here. It was not me either. But that was really interesting. But that is the great thing about the historical house, is that here at the theater, we get some spookies. We get some entities that are not the kindest, but at the historical house,
and they're all so nice.
We've only experienced some. I truly believe that they have chosen to remain there.
Yeah, I do too. I think Claire, I think the daughter is there. She very much loved the house and the property, and I mean, that was her whole world.
And like I said to you before, I think definitely the circumstances of their life definitely do give a reflection of who they are in death. I mean, let's face it, if you were a shitty person in life, you're going to be a shitty person in death. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
But it also, your personality and your livelihood and the things that you do all are a reflection of your personality, which you take with you in death. So where we were talking about the Freemasons being in your building, that's why you might have some grumpy, mean ones, because you're not supposed to be there, Ariel. And then when you go into this historical building where there are these affluent, well-to-do people that love to socialize and have guests, they're going to welcome you because they first of all, they see that their house is well-maintained and restored to its natural grandeur, and people are coming in and appreciating and loving the history and the museum and the artifacts, and they see that. So if you're respectful to them when you're there, you're going to get a perfect response from them.
And I also think a lot of it has to do with the idea that, the historical society, they have one or two people there every day just kind of working on stuff for a couple hours. They've never really, now they do have tours when people sign up for them, but they're few and far in between. So now that we're working with them and giving these paranormal tours with Lonnie and the society, like they're really appreciative and grateful for that. Because there's, in this town in Huntington, there's such a untapped source of paranormal that people are fascinated by that we had no idea.
I wish that most of the historical societies would be more openly receptive to it.
Too.
I'm trying to tell
There's
them
a lot
here.
that do. There's a lot
especially since these historical societies work on donations.
Yes.
They're not funded by anyone. So to have these paranormal tours is only going to help them.
Correct.
And I've been trying to say that to them, like, allow me to do this to help you.
Yeah.
And there are just some of them are just so unbending. I mean, I got off the phone this past week with somebody in Vernon, and she was like, we don't do paranormal. So when your house is falling apart and it needs a new roof, then maybe you'll rethink
Maybe.
paranormal, because it's just so ridiculous. Give me a break. I just don't understand it.
We got super lucky because we're friends with Lonnie.
Yeah.
Because me and Colin went there prior, and they have this whole area in the historical society of murder books and like unsolved crimes and stuff like that. So I was like, let's go and look at it and see what we can find in the theater. And they were like not about any of the paranormal stuff. They were all mean to us. Because it's this little old ladies, and we walk in there.
That's what it is. They're unbending and unmovable. It's just
they were not impressed with us.
I hate to say it, but
you
have to wait. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, you have to wait until they die and they haunt the building themselves.
Yeah.
Maybe to allow them.
They're not going to like me then either. My God, I can never go back there.
They didn't see us as preserving history, which is what they do.
They thought we were mocking it.
And us, we are telling the story that people
I know.
Chance. And that's why
well, the people in my
think
community, they know, because I've written 6 books already, and 4 of them are true account paranormal books in my community. And people who read my books know that I'm all about historical preservation. I'm all about the history. I talk about the history of the town. I talk about the history of location, and people have so appreciated that. They're like, I just love when you tell us about the history. That's because history gets lost in the shuffle. So I tell them the history, and then I share the paranormal accounts. And I think they go hand in hand. They can go hand in hand. They just need to be accepting of it.
I completely agree with you. Once Lonnie works there and he's a friend of ours, he was able to talk to them and be like, they really do care about the history, which we very much love this town. We very much love this theater and all the history. I love history in general. I think it's one of the most important things for anybody to never learn is to study and learn all of our history. And it's very important to keep it alive and fresh for people that are growing up, because sadly it'll all be lost one day. These beautiful old buildings that we have, it'll just all get lost in the hustle and bustle. And I really think that it was a very fortunate, circumstance that we got lucky that Lonnie's one of our friends.
That's great.
Plus, Lonnie's so charming that he was just like, no, let me do it. And they're like, okay, if you're here the whole time, Lonnie. So that's how
that's great. I mean, if you didn't love history, you wouldn't have invested your time and your patience into the theater either. So
no, yeah, absolutely. I've been here for 4 years. This place is my home. I love this place. So
I'll be lost without it. I also think that's the reason why the spirits of the Historical Society are so welcoming and so nice, is because they haven't had anyone hear them before.
Yeah.
They've never really had groups in there. They've never really, so for all we know, these spirits have been saying hello
for years.
All this time. That's right.
And now it's like, well, here we are. Like, we hear you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're a little bit more active when we have people who are actively engaging with them.
Yeah.
That's
when I first started working here, I started working here before Colin, and I was always into the paranormal. I was like, this building's definitely without a doubt haunted, just stepping into it once. And Dave's like, yeah, everybody would, tell stories, and there's the lady in white, and he kind of was just like, just like wise tales of old employees. And then Colin, being one of my best friends, and he started working here, I was like, let's do this. And he's like, without a doubt, we're doing this.
Yes.
And we started the tours, and it all just hit off. So.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. It's a wonderful thing. And thank you so much for doing that. We were talking earlier about how that vibe, like you got that vibe in the building with the Freemasons there with you. Yes. And then you have the vibe of the mansion. I'm sure that when you did the Crescent Sanatorium investigation in Pennsylvania, that was a totally different vibe. I mean, we did one in the Penhurst, and it's just unbelievable. We had some great stuff happen when we were there. But anyway, this Crescent Sanatorium that you guys were in was used as a hospital and a prison. So I've got a lot of pictures that I'm going to have Chris put up over the years, because it was used as both a hospital and prison. The Crescent Tuberculosis Sanatorium treated more than 40,000 patients suffering from tuberculosis from 1913 to 1964. The picture credit is going to go to Lee West, Phil Brown, James Stephen Murrow. The sanatorium opened up as both a hospital and long-term health facility. Its impressive Tudor-style design gave it more of a college campus vibe than a hospital.
Yeah, it does on the inside.
Over time, it morphed into a facility to house the mentally challenged. And yet again, in the 80s, its purpose changed when it became a medium security correctional facility for male inmates. It closed its doors in 2013 when the rising costs of maintenance made it necessary to do so. Hydroponic Life took it over in 2019 with plans to create a hydroponic facility. They are the ones currently responsible for the tours taking place there today. Recently, the underground tunnels have been opened to the public tours as well. And I got a few more cool pictures to show you all. But what makes this location so haunted? Well, I think I can answer that question, but I want to hear it from you. What happened while you were there too?
The tunnels.
I mean, here's the thing is that it all, we were very blessed and very lucky, one, to be able to go there. Because just like our place, people will call you up and say, oh, can we come on this date? What's the price? And yada, yada, yada. Well, when I called the wonderful lady, I don't remember her name, and I apologize if she's watching. She had said that, she was fully booked. She'll have to reach out to me. She asked who we were, and I said, oh, we're Clifton Paranormal. And she heard of us. She follows us on TikTok.
Oh, very cool.
She said, I've heard, I know you guys. She goes, let me pull up some dates, and then within a couple of days, we were moved to the top of the list, which
wow,
she's a delicious little baby.
And so we were very excited, and we lucked out in the sense that normally when you go to Crescent, depending on when you book, now the weekends are more expensive and the weekdays are not as expensive. You have the potential to share the date with another team. There are 12 buildings to investigate. And they will split 6 to 6. And then if you want to split up in the middle of the night to do the other 6, you can.
That's what we did when we were at Pennhurst. We did a collaborative effort with Redbird Curiosities. So I think I want to say there were 12 of us. Does that sound like right? About 12 of us? Excuse me. And it's huge and enormous with all these buildings. And we were there for hours.
Yes.
I mean, we didn't cover even a quarter of what we
didn't
could have. But it was just incredible. So go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Okay. So we lucked out that no other team booked. So we had all 12 buildings to ourselves. And we thought, this is amazing. We are going to hike all over this place. I myself probably only got to go into 3 of them because this place is massive. I think it's a couple of miles.
Yeah, it's very large.
Yeah.
You can do a map when you go there. So I had plenty of experiences, even in the daylight, which was the really cool thing. I did something I normally don't do, and I separated from the group at one point. And I kind of got myself a little lost. And I ended up, we were all in the same building, and there's a glass annex that connects 2 buildings. I was on one side, and the rest of the team ended up on the other side. So we have walkie-talkies, and we're like, okay, well, let's, finagle back in there. And I got to one part, and this was we did this at the end of July, so it was about 8 o'clock or so. It was still light, just kind of going down, and to my left is a set of stairs, and they've boarded the top of the stairwell, so you can't go up there. I heard what sounded to me like knocking, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to worry about it, yada, yada, yada. I continue to walk down the hallway, and then from behind me, I hear down the steps. And I turn around, and I'm like, it's closed off. Like, there's no one's going up or down. And then they radio me and say, hey, where are you? We're still trying to find you. And I'm like, it was a weird moment. I get to like a crossroads. There's a hallway there, and there's it was just this overwhelming feeling that there are people coming at me from all hallway. And I radioed them, and I said, guys, look, I don't know where you are, but I felt weird to stop. I felt like I could not stop. I needed to keep walking. So I was like, I don't know where you are. Tell me where you are. I'm walking. I'm getting activity. And that, I wasn't scared. It just kind of, it made me feel some type of way that I could not stop walking. I had to continue forward, or left or right. And that was the first experience that I had. We had been probably walking around for about an hour. just kind of going through, because I believe they were, what's what I'm looking for? Vacant. They claimed bankruptcy. It was Chapter 11, Chapter 12. So essentially, everything is still there.
Yeah.
Books and magazines all over the floor, beds, chairs, everything. So we were just kind of going through all the junk and looking at stuff. So that was the first experience I had.
I would say the most wild experience, I think, as a group was when we were in the tunnels.
Oh yeah.
So at first we weren't sure like which tunnels we were in, because there's the death tunnels and then there's other tunnels that connect the buildings. And the death tunnels, I believe, had over like 60,000 bodies in and out throughout the years. We were all walking down the hall, and it's very well lit. It's not dark. You know, they have very big lights, so you know where you're going. And you literally just start feeling like you can't breathe. Like, all of us independently without saying anything to each other at the moment. I started walking. I was like I felt like I just everything was closing in. Like I was just
ahead of them. I was ahead of you.
He was ahead of us, and it was me and my husband and Kirsten were in the back, and they were both very much like I hear my husband go, and I was like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "I just feel like I can't breathe." I was like, "That's exactly how I'm feeling." And you very much feel like everything's caving in on you in the death tunnels. It very much if that's like the beginning stages of death. It's probably a terrifying feeling, because it's very much you just you're very heavy, very, very depressing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we also.
What were those tunnels used for? Do you know?
Tuberculosis victims.
Yeah, so they were the death
were.
That's how they would take the bodies back and forth in the colder weather, and also they'd walk patients in and out of there too. I mean, they use the tunnels for various things, but mostly dead bodies.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the residual
Oh,
energy.
Oh
that's
yeah,
there just
there's
from
tons of
that alone.
residual hauntings there. I would say a good portion of them are.
Yeah, we recorded. We brought our podcasting equipment. We said, let's record right here. Let's do whatever. And so there's a connected to the church. There's a that's where we were told that the lady who we spoke to about Chris, and she said there's a little alleyway with a bench, and it connects to the stairwell of the church, and that's she was record right there. That's where they get a lot of activity.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, cool. And so Ariel and I, we have our headphones just like you have yours. And we're talking, and I could hear things in the tunnel, like behind me, because my back was facing the tunnel, and I'm like, do you hear
Like
that?
a gurney.
Like, yeah, that's exactly what it was. Like,
Sound
you
like a
could
gurney.
hear wheels turning, and it happened probably about 2 or 3 times. But
it never got picked up on our
no.
recording devices, but all of us independently heard a gurney.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I found very
Because
fast.
when we were at Penhurst, everybody had cameras going, audio going at different times, varying times. At one point, we had an interaction with this black shadow that came from one end of a hallway and kept moving towards us, and we were all just like, oh my God, it's getting closer and it's getting closer. And it was almost like it was checking us out and moving closer, and wasn't sure if it was going to come. And we'd say, you can come, we're not going to hurt you, we're here in peace. And it kept moving closer and closer, and we got it on camera, and we were just like, oh my God. When you get a catch like that, you just are so ecstatic. We couldn't believe it ourselves. And the thing of it is, we're really not out to make anyone believe us at all. We're just tickled pink if we get something on camera by ourselves and we know the truth of it. I don't care if anybody else believes me. I know it happened, that I was there and I experienced it, and that's the exciting part of it. You want me to tell you the story? I'll tell you the story. You want me to share it with you? I'll share it with you, whether you believe me or not. I really don't care. So that's how I kind of go with it. But to catch something like that is pretty amazing.
That was the interesting thing about Crescent, was that as far as now, we had people with body cams, we had recorders going almost all the time. We weren't catching a lot physically, but we were all having different experiences. I was with one of our other team members at that time, and we were in the tuberculosis building, where the terminal ill building. It was building F or J or something. And so we were there. It was him and I, and we're on the 3rd floor. And honestly, there was nothing. There was no feeling. It was just kind of boring. We're doing a live stream. We have a Phasma box out. We have a ghost box out to maybe counteract, and we're not getting a thing. And we're like, okay, well, maybe we should go. And probably about 10, 15 minutes of just getting no activity, something changed in the air. and you could feel it ripple. And all of a sudden we started hearing voices, like we heard people downstairs, we're on the 3rd floor. The energy, and then I was doing an Estes method via the Phasma box. I started getting chatter. The ghost box that he was on with the he was getting words played out. It was the energy completely shifted at one point, and it stayed that way and you could feel it. That was the one thing that
that's when you know you don't have to debunk anything. When it happens and more than one, like when the sensitives start feeling something and you start picking up stuff on your K2s and in your Phasma box and your during the Estes method, when all of that starts coming together at the same time, you know something's happening. And that's when we start whipping out the cameras and taking pictures and doing video and audio, because we're hoping that we can get a really good catch. And that's usually when it happens. That's usually when it happens.
Bodies are bustful.
We I know for me, I went to the prison ward area, and I don't know, maybe it was, at first I thought maybe it's me because I find the idea of prison and being inside a tiny little cell almost 24 hours a day terrible.
It is terrible.
The idea of that freaks me out. So walking into the prison area, I was already freaked out. And like I said, I thought maybe it's my own head because this is kind of a fear of mine. And I was recording at that time, and I have the photo right here. I don't know why I didn't think to send it. I completely forgot about it. But I was walking up one of the upper one of the upper stairwells, and I sent it to our team. So I have the photo on my phone here. That during one of the footages, you see the shoulder of someone in one of the cells leaning out. And I have that right here. We'll have to, I don't know if we can get it.
I'll come shove it in the screen.
I know, I will.
Yeah. Ooh.
Well, I don't know if it's gonna, but I circled it.
Oh yeah, no, I see it. Ooh, very cool. And I love that.
I was just walking with my phone out in front of me like this, and I was like, I don't like it. I don't like it. It was my mantra. I kept saying I don't like it over and over and over. And I was going through the
now was that part of a video that you were taking, or
correct? Yeah, that was actually part of the video, and I paused it and I rewound it. I said, "What is that?"
See that?
The person I was investigating with was on the other side of the prison itself, because it was the building is so large it's divided into two. He was on the other side because he was feeling something over there, and I stayed on the other side. So I saw that, and I was like, I know I was the only one up there. There was no one else. I didn't go into any of the cells. I just walked by them. And then I catch that. So I was like, well, that's weird. That to me looks like a shoulder or clothing of an inmate. And I thought that was really weird. But you and Kirsten, they felt nothing in the
gym. I mean, honestly, the only time I was ever kind of like just like was in the tunnels. Otherwise, I didn't really catch much. I mean, we didn't catch any evidence like to like show anybody. But like when we were there, the only thing that I found very weird when we were in, it was one of the cell blocks. And me and Kirsten are obviously the females, and it's obviously a male cell block. So we were saying and doing wild things, expecting, immense amount of results. And I mean, we heard a few taps and bangs, but you never know. I just could be like the wind outside.
Yeah. But Crescent it's so massive, and I love to put a spotlight on it, just like we do this theater. Because it's worth it. It's one of those places that you can go to and have a different experience with the different buildings, and see what you get. And like I said, it just depends on where you go. But if you love looking at old stuff that just unfortunately is no longer really preserved because of the elements, it's worth it. Yeah. I thought it was such a great place to go, but you will be tired.
You're exhausted by the end of it.
Your feet will bark so loud. At the end of it, I mean, it got to the point where I was like, I'll be here in the center. I'm not moving because my feet hurt so much.
I got so tired. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but we try and help spirit go into light when we are at these places. And when we were at Pennhurst, one of the women works with children. She's like a child therapist of some sort, and she's very sensitive spirit. So she was connecting with a lot of the children at Pennhurst, and she'd been there, I think, twice before. So they recognized her when she came. Oh, you're back, kind of thing. And she's helped a lot of children cross over from there, which we were able to
Oh, that's
experience her
wonderful.
doing with one when we were there, and that was very, very cool to see that happen because you don't want them stuck there if
No.
they don't want to be there.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, you do get different experiences in the sanatoriums and hospitals because they've been used for so many different things, like Crescent, for example.
Yeah, Crescent was it was a tuberculosis center, then it became a mental institution. And one of the doctors at the prison, which I investigated the prison very much, like the history of it, there was one doctor that was there, he's a psychiatrist, and he was the cause for over 12 suicides. This man is still alive and still practices medicine.
No way.
It's documented.
How is that even possible?
His name's Dr. Long, but I won't give first names and I won't say where, but he still is practicing medicine and he is the cause of 12 different suicides.
Wow. That's really sad.
Man. Yeah, sad.
So
I just imagine all the bad mojo in there. Just the bad voodoo.
I wonder what would happen if he walked the halls of
I would love
the sanatorium now.
Could you imagine? I don't even think he would, because he knows.
No.
He has to,
he doesn't have a conscience.
He doesn't care. I mean, that could also be it. But, I mean, he still does what he does. So who knows what he does now?
Well, this was really cool. I really enjoyed talking about these things with you. You guys are on TikTok. What are you on TikTok as? Clifton Paranormal?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to find you and follow you.
That's our
and
handle.
why don't you tell everybody how they can find you otherwise in all the different social media places,
Absolutely.
et cetera, et cetera.
So our Facebook is the same handle. It's Clifton Paranormal. You can reach out to us via email at cliftonparanormal@gmail.com. And then our TikTok handle is Clifton Paranormal as well. And that's kind of our extent of social media thus far. We are reaching out to other venues such as Instagram and all of that.
I have it.
And what your
TikTok? Colin messed up my name.
I did. So her TikTok handle, because she does a lot of stuff here in the theater, and it's really cool.
I just post really stupid videos. Don't think they're amazing.
It's funny though. But her handle is Ariel at the Clifton.
Yeah.
And I accidentally put a J instead of an H for the word the, and it won't allow you to change it for 30 days.
Oh.
So that was my bad.
Ariel, I'm gonna find. I just found Clifton Paranormal, and now I'm gonna try. Ariel, it says, is it at like AT or
AT? Yes, ATTJE Clifton.
JH at Ariel at JHE.
Oh yeah, is that what it
Clifton,
is?
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's. I'm gonna see. Let's see what it comes.
Yeah, TJE.
You can't change it for 30 days.
No,
oh, my goodness.
And it was just my regular TikTok, and then I deleted a bunch of videos because a lot of my videos are at the theater, and then Colin's like, just add more. So, but he changed my name, so you have to wait.
But yeah, so we also one thing David Peoples, the owner, asked us to really get out there is that we are a dying business in the sense of movie theaters and how people live stream or they rent movies nowadays and all of that. And we have an amazing lineup just coming in for the next week. We've got Creed 3, we've got Shazam. What's our third
Jesus
one?
Revolution coming.
Jesus Revolution is coming.
It's 65.
Wow.
He's in Huntington and wants to see a movie. We're here. I'm here all the time if you want to see me.
717 Washington Street, Huntington, Pennsylvania.
Wonderful.
So you can also go if you look up Huntington Cinema or Clifton 5 Cinema.
Yeah, you can look up Huntington Cinema or Clifton 5 Cinema. It should pull up either.
And show times are there. They're on Facebook and we post a lot. We have a ghost tour on Saturday where we're doing the original Leprechaun and the tour after. Those tickets are $25. You'll get a large popcorn and a large drink plus admission to the movie and the tour.
You can't beat that. I mean, you go to a regular movie theater and you pay that much just to see the darn movie. So that's a great deal.
We are not an AMC. We are an independently run movie theater. There are 5 screens, and we've got cheap concessions, and we've got candy and popcorn and drinks. And that is where, so all profits go to the Clifton.
Yeah, everything we do, we give to Dave.
And that is because we want to save this building. Without this building, we wouldn't have Clifton Paranormal. We wouldn't be able to do these tours. We wouldn't be able to have this conversation with you without what this building has provided for us. And that is what we are trying to save. So, and like I said before, this is our home. This is a place that we all love to be. Some of us practically live here, like this one. Her kids are here,
Yeah,
her
my kids are
husband,
downstairs.
that's what it is. So, at the end of the day, we just want people to come out here and enjoy themselves and come say hi.
And
That's what
even
it
just
is.
as customers, people will leave movies and complain that they're being bothered by the spirits. So that's
Oh,
also
yeah.
a thing.
Yeah. Lady come in on Wednesday. She went to go see a movie in Theater 5. She goes, is that the haunted one? I said, no, that's Theater 4. She goes, well, when I was here last, she said there was an old lady who kept opening the door of Theater 5. And we could see her through the door would open, and they would see an older woman on the other side of the door kept opening it. And they went to go open it, and there was no one there. And I said, was this during the summer? And she says, yes. I said, you know what? Over the summer, we used to have a drive-in. So our Theater 4 was shut down at that time. Theater 4 and 5 are both twins. They sit right next to each other. And 4 was shut down, and we had a psychic medium tell us whatever activities in 4 is going to transfer to 5 now that 4 is shut down for the summer. And that's exactly
what happened.
Wow. But she said that her and her kids were about to walk out of Theater 5, and the door started to open, and there's an old lady on the other side, and they just thought it was a customer, and they opened. There's no one there.
We've had many groups of
that's
kids
so
run out, scared, crying. So.
Haunted theater and haunted you will get.
You will.
Yeah, and and also like share your experiences, email us. I have people email me all the time when they're on tours with pictures. They'll tell us, oh, hey, this happened in this theater. Person the other day was sweeping up Theater 2, and as she was sweeping, a pair of shoes, dress shoes, she saw walk towards her, and she thought it was a customer. There's no one there. I was standing right behind her, and I was like, I didn't see anything. And she said they look like dress shoes, like someone was, and that was at our Theater 2, which is our big grand theater that has a giant stage.
I love that.
And that used to be the single theater where everyone,
this used to be like one theater house at one point. Dave plexed it in the 80s and put up all the walls and made it different theaters.
So cool. Well, all the best of luck to you guys.
Thank you so much. It's just a pleasure.
And thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really do appreciate it. And thank you, Techie Chris. We couldn't do it without you. If you liked listening to this week's episode and you're into all things paranormal, check out my other show, Eleanor Wagner's Strange and Scary World podcast, out of Paranormal UK Radio Network, which is available wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're interested in reading any of my books, you can find the links to them on my website, authoreleanorwagner.com. I write about the history of the town and location, add the paranormal story to the mix, and finish it all off with photos and evidence. Viewers, tune in on Thursday, March 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when I'll be interviewing John Curley and his HAPS paranormal team about their many investigations and the evidence they've unearthed. Thank you, and stay and listen as Alexander Nakarada's tune takes us out. Good night.
I hope you've enjoyed this little journey down my own personal nightmare alley. If you're one of those people who experiences the paranormal and has stories of your own you've been filing away over the years, I want to hear about them. And if you're a part of a paranormal investigative team, even better. I'd love to have you on my show. Got a questionable photo? Send it in. Would love to have an open discussion here amongst the professionals. Reach out to me at authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. Enjoy our soundtrack music, Headless Horseman by Alexander Nakarada, promoted by freestockmusic.com. And remember, no ghost story is better than a real-life ghost story. Until we meet again, make sure you're creeping it real.